certain. What is that? It limits the price. Right? Where the moment you tend to increase your price and there is a substitute available, right, people will simply stop purchasing your products. They will go in for the substitute. So a substitute always puts an upper price limit on the prices of a product. And the intensity of rivalry, this is actually most important. A while back, Professor Mittal told about the red ocean versus blue ocean strategy, isn't it? If the rivalry is intense, we are going to end up with red ocean strategy, isn't it? A perfect example I will give you. After the closure of Kingfisher, right, and Jet taking over Sahara and all, there are as of now 3 primary players who has got a national presence. What are those? Air India, Indian Airlines combined, Indigo, and Jetlight combined. Got it? Until 26th of October, I mean, Delhi-Bhubaneswar route was almost dominated by Indigo. Jet doesn't fly that route, so that means there are only 2, India Airlines and Indigo. And the flights were costing almost around 8,600, 9,000, 9,600 to the tune of around anything between 8 to 10,000 rupees. And then Go Air entered that segment. 26th of October, Go Air entered, and the fare was 3,299. And Indigo immediately come down to that level. Getting it? Now, a substitute has come in, get it? And people are definitely going to try that. See, when you are flying a low-cost carrier, it doesn't matter whether you fly Indigo or Go, or your primary objective is to get transported from Delhi to Bhubaneswar. That's it. Getting it? So, if somebody is offering me 3,299, will I ever think of paying 9,600 with a rival airline? Forget it. So here, now what is going to happen to the bottom line of Indigo after Go Air enters that field? Absolutely. The profitability is definitely going to come down, isn't it? So they are entering into a red ocean right away. Getting it? However, if they sit together, the 3 CEOs, they sit together and say, okay, what we call a cartel, isn't it? That okay, come what may, anyway the numbers of gas are almost fixed. The size is, market size is known, isn't it? And whatever fare we charge, right, it is going to be equally distributed among the 3. So instead of blooding ourselves by getting into the unnecessary price wars, right, let's work together, and that happens. Then the characteristics of these markets, there is nothing much to say actually. We all know the characteristics of these markets. I'll quickly. Okay, now when we undertake environmental analysis, what are the factors that we are going to consider? First one, which factor are to be considered? Second, what are the sources of our information? Where we are going to get the information from? Forecasting. Can we use those figures to forecast our future? Then scenario development and preparation of an environmental threat and opportunity profile. Can anybody tell me what do we understand by scenario development? And how it is important for environmental analysis? No if analysis. See, what happens is the actual environment could be too overwhelming, isn't it, for you to explain it to somebody else, isn't it? So instead of showing them the actual thing, what you do is you try to put it on paper, a scenario, kind of a simulation. This is what is, and on the basis of your simulation, you tend to draw out the models that you want to implement so that your organization is safeguarding itself from the threats, and it is going to aggressively grabbing those opportunities. And at the end, as I told you, we are going to prepare a profile. Now, what are the factors that are going to be considered? Okay. Only factors which we are going to consider are those factors which has a direct link to our business. Whether it has a positive impact or a negative impact is different. Is it impacting our business? If yes, we consider that factor. If no, we don't consider that factor. Simple. If yes, what is the degree of impact? Low, moderate, high. If the impact is high, that factor should be a priority for us. If the impact is low, that could be a less priority for us. Then variables affecting the choice of the factors. Managerial philosophy, age of the organization, right? Why these variables are important, right? If let's say managerial philosophy says we don't have a problem of, let's say, customer acceptance of our prices. Customer know that we price our products ethically, isn't it? So even if there is an increase in cost, right, we can pass on that cost to the customer. Correct? So in that case, they would not bother too much about kind of what happens to the supply of a particular product, or if there is a available cheaper source of supply available, isn't it? They can start procuring from that supplier and pass on that benefits to the customer. On the other hand, there could be another philosophy of the management which says, forget about it. We are going to keep our prices same, and we are going to get more profit because now the suppliers are costing lesser, isn't it? As of now, that's exactly what is being happening in the petrochemical distribution sector, isn't it? The crude oil prices are reducing almost for the last 1 year, gradually, constantly decreasing, isn't it? But we are not seeing that decrease in the prices. Once in a while, 1 rupee, 2 rupee decreases are there, but nothing as compared to what it should be, isn't it? Because government says today, the petroleum prices are still protected by the government, isn't it? So what they say is, whatever loss they had made when the crude prices were $110 and $115, now even if it is $80, $85, cover some of those losses, let them make profit, and then only we are going to talk about that. So you have got various types of management. Age of the organization. What age of the factors? There are some factors which has the ability to impact more to a new organization than to a stable organization. That means a aged organization is a stable organization, and they have the ability to withstand many surprises which a new organization doesn't have. Size and power of the organization. If the organization is highly profitable, isn't it? A small disturbance doesn't distract them. Even major catastrophe doesn't impact them much. If you remember, there was a cyclone in Gujarat sometime in 2001, a huge cyclone, isn't it? The very same year, Reliance Industries Limited was putting up their Jamnagar plant, and that plant was to be the largest refining plant of the world. Correct? And halfway through, almost major constructions were done, machineries were erected and all, and this cyclone came up, and it blew away everything. Right? And was Mukesh Ambani a worried man? No. Not at all. Why not? One more thing, he was smart. What he did, at the time of signing of the insurance paper, he had included natural calamity is also to be covered in the insurance policy. So he made it get it included. So New India Insurance, when they took the insurance, right, normally it is not covered, but he insisted on it, that only if you cover this, I am going to sign this agreement, otherwise not. And it was a big client for New India Insurance, so they included it, signed the agreement. So entire, I think that till that point of time, if I'm not wrong, they had invested around 7,600 crores into that project. Got it? And New India Assurance has to pay back every damn penny to Reliance Industries, and that particular one transaction costed New India almost 7 years of their profit. Getting it? So size and power of the organization, right, also affects the kind of factor. Even the worst of the factors you can withstand if you have this. Geographical dimensions of the organizations. It is like how many places you have your manufacturing facilities, because once you become a global organization, right, your sourcing gets a great advantage. Financing gets a great advantage. Right. Why? For example, let's say Tata wants to come up with a new plant. Got it? And though they have got their own internal sources of funds, even if they don't want to use that fund and go in for outside funding, got it? Is there a bank in, let's say, Europe or America which is going to deny a loan to Tatas? They will not, isn't it? If the project proposal is submitted to them, in fact, they will fall heel over head to come and serve Tata's needs. And at what interest rate, which is prevailing in that particular economy at that point of time. So don't be surprised if they are able to get a huge, massive loan running into billions of dollars for an interest rate of 3% or 4%. Getting it? So getting funding at that rate and procuring raw material globally, get the cheapest and best source and do it. Do you think that venture has got a larger chance of succeeding in the very first year than without this? Of course it is. Okay. Then what type of business you are? Because almost every business has got its own profit margins. There are some business where the margins is higher. In fact, in service businesses, your profit margins are sometimes more than 50%. Right? You will see many companies' balance sheets. If their annual turnover is, let's say, 250 crores, you will see a net profit of 110 crores. Okay? Companies like Microsoft, if a software is developed, the costs incurred once. Every time they are selling a CD, money is flowing in. Isn't it? So for them, the profit margin is closer to 100% actually. The only cost that they incur is, the major cost is the manpower cost. Nature of the environment, whether it is a simple environment or whether it is a turbulent environment. Okay, where we are going to get this information from for our environmental analysis, right? Verbal information received from customers, from suppliers, from channel partners, from employees. In fact, many companies advertise for vacancies or positions which are not there in the organization. What is the purpose? People will apply, and which people are going to apply? People from the same industry are going to apply. People from your competition are going to apply for those things, isn't it? So you call them on the pretext of interviewing them. The actual objective is to extract information from them. Right? And that is a most reliable source of information. Correct? Business espionage. What is espionage? Spying. Planting your man in other industries, your competitor's place. Does it happen? Yes, it does. That means the person is working from company X, getting paid by company X, but working for company Y. And the payment that he gets from company Y is many a times the salary that he gets from company X. Marketing research agencies. Nowadays you have got marketing research agencies, IMRB, ORG, MARG, and so on and so forth, isn't it? You tell them the problem, they institute a research for you, come out with their observations and share it with you. And most of the time, right, their accuracy level is pretty high. If you see these exit polls, almost every news channel does that. right? They do that with one of these marketing organizations, isn't it? And most of the time, the predicted numbers are maintained. Industry associations. Almost any industry has got their own association, wherein all the players within that particular industry are members of that. In fact, for that, they pay a membership annual membership fee to the association, and the association, what it does, it lobbies for that particular industry and the government persons. They conduct these research works, share that information with all their members, and keep doing certain things which is going to enhance that industry as a whole, and which is going to help the members in carrying out their businesses. Publications. These are information available in the public domain. Okay. There are some publications which are available free of cost. There are some publications for which you may have to pay a small fee for that, or a price for that. In fact, if you go to many research paper site, they will ask you for a particular amount. That if you want to get, abstract, they will say give you free of cost. The moment you say more, and they will take you to the page. Okay, you have to pay this much amount for a publication. Their own research. Most companies are equipped to do their own research, so they can get the information through their own research. Now, once you get those information, how do you forecast your future? There are certain forecasting methods. Historical analogy method. What is this? You look at history, what has been the performance of your organization, and then extrapolate it for the future. This is possible or accurate for stable environment, not for turbulent environment. Survey methods. These are we have studied. Delphi techniques, business parameters, extrapolation, time series analysis, regression analysis. These are all statistical methods of forecasting. Then scenario development that I was just talking about. What happens? You prepare it is like a kind of systematic document. Okay, you prepare the background for that. Okay, then selection of critical indicators of all these analysis that you have done. Which are the factors which are going to affect your business, and what is the impact of those factors. Establishing past behavior of indicators, how these factors or indicators have behaved in the past. Verification of potential future events, in case there are potential events which are going to take place, right? What that particular event, that future event is going to have on your this thing. In fact, there is something called a sensitivity analysis, if you have heard of it, right? What is sensitivity analysis? Whatever you do today, because always planning is done for future, isn't it? And the more distance today from the future, less accurate the planning will be. So whenever you are doing a planning, right, you always include a sensitivity analysis. Correct? To give an example, a insurance company, whenever you buy insurance, right, and they say this is going to be your returns in the next 20 years. Correct? And they always give three scenarios. Right? If the returns are 8%, this is what your returns are going to be. If your returns are 10%, this is what your returns are going to be. If the returns are 6%, this is what your returns are going to be. So they instead of telling one figure, they say three figures. So if the economy does well and the money that is invested in that particular project, it really earns 10% interest, then this is what your returns going to be at the end. So always do a sensitivity that if this happens, is going to be the future. If this happens, this is what is going to be the future. If this happens, this is what is going to be the future. And no, I'm talking about verification of potential future events. How do you factor in the future in your environmental analysis? You do that by doing that sensitivity analysis. Yeah. Yeah. So when we talk about the future, right, we are primarily getting the future political uncertainties. Suppose you are making, let's say 2000. You are making a plan for 2004. You knew that elections are coming. Fair enough. Now, what will happen if the existing government is going to come back to power, and what is going to happen if the government is going to change? So you have got two scenarios. So in the two scenarios, your plan should provide facilities for accommodating both. If option A is there, what is going to happen? If option B is there, what is going to happen? Correct? Now, this is what the environmental threat and opportunity profile looks like. On the left hand, you have got those factors. First one, what is the degree of importance? If it is low, you assign a score of 1. If it is medium, you assign a score of 2. If it is high, you assign a score of 3. And degree of impact. Again, this one, if the impact is low and positive. -1 if the impact is low and negative. Right? +2 if the impact is medium and positive. -2 if the impact is medium and negative. Similarly, +3, -3. If the importance or impact is high but positive, we assign a figure of +3. If it is adverse and the impact is high, we assign a figure of -3. So once we do that, at the end of it, we are coming out with a score, and that score is our environmental opportunity and threat. Fine. So with this, we come to the end of the first part. Now we move on to the other one, that is organizational analysis. Okay, what is it? Organizational analysis is the process through which an organization evaluates its capability so as to have competitive advantage in the marketplace. At the end of it, we should be able to have a competitive advantage which is going to ensure that we enjoy superior profitability and faster growth. Correct? Now, first we must consider what are the organizational resources. When you talk about resources, right, though we have got many, like we have got land, we have got building, we have got kind of people, we have got financial assets and so on and so forth. Here we are going to talk only 3 type of asset. What are those? Human resources are people, isn't it? They are capabilities and their competencies. That means those resources which are capable of creating a competitive advantage for the organization. Correct? Can a building create a competitive advantage? I don't think so. Can a piece of land create competitive advantage? No. Anybody else who is having a similar kind of building, they are similar. So where is the competitive advantage? Isn't it? So people, their capabilities and their competencies are the only one which is going to create a competitive advantage. So in this case, organizational resources, we are going to consider those figures. Organizational behavior. How those assets behave in an organization. That means, is the organization provide them with an environment wherein they can be their best? Does the organization give the freedom to exploit their maximum potential? Isn't it? In fact, many a times, without realizing, many organizations restrict people to express themselves by telling them that, okay, this is the policy that you have to adopt. Isn't it? This is the procedure within which you have to work. So that actually curtails the imagination and potential of that person than without it. Now, these two gives you organizational strengths and weaknesses. Organizational resources and organizational behavior is going to give organizational strengths and opportunities. When you combine that with synergistic effects, what do you mean by synergistic effect? Is the personal goals of each of our employees has been aligned with the organizational goals or not? If we have been able to do that, we are having a synergistic effect. Otherwise, it will be conflicting. And it is neither good for the employee nor good for the organization. If the individual goal of an employee is not aligned or tuned with the organizational goal, right, it is going to end up in a conflict, which is not good for either of them. Now, the synergistic effect and the organizational strength and weaknesses is going to result in organizational competencies. Obviously, if you have capability, if you have a competency as an individual, and that competency has been aligned synergistically to the organization's objectives, right? And the organization recognizes that capability, that competency, and tries to make the most of it, you end up with organizational competency. Right, like yesterday somebody was asking, how does a personal competency is going to end up in a competitive organization? This explains that. Correct? Now, organizational competencies combined with an approach to how to use those competencies is going to create organizational capability. Organizational competency, if the organizations know how to use those competencies, right, productively for the organization, we end up with getting organizational capability. Now, a competent organization has become a capable organization. And once we use that in an environmental context, what we get is competitive advantage. Have I been able to link these components appropriately? Correct? So this is how a competitive advantage is reached in any organization. Clear? Now, organizational resources, I was just telling you, assets, capabilities and competencies. And assets here also we are talking only about the human assets. Okay. And this is a very interesting formula. Tangible assets plus intangible assets. What are intangible assets? Your brand, goodwill, right? Factors which can yield positive result for the organization, but which cannot find a place in the balance sheet.